Lou, you got anything that was just you couldn't wait to talk about?
I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this wonderful clip from the 90s of Dolly Parton singing in a pub in Ireland, like an impromptu performance that I thought was delightful. But I don't know if there's no conspiracies behind that, boys.
I'm sure we could pull something out.
Sounds like a good white pill to end it with. Like, do you remember when we were a society?
Why was Dolly Parton a CIA op?
Yeah, right.
Do you remember when Dolly Parton was on Instagram and not just the Hawk Tua chick?
Okay, can we talk about her a little bit?
We were just talking about her.
I don't think she's getting quite enough press.
Yeah.
I think we need to elevate her a little bit.
She's looking for our platform. Yeah, let me tell you.
Is she the D's nuts of this election cycle?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Human Reaction, your weekly source for independent commentary on cultural news and politics, where it's always our mission to arm you with the tools that you need to cut through media misdirection and resist the mono-narrative. We are back with a very special guest today. We have Lou Perez in the house. The man is a comedian, writer, producer, and author of That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, On the Death and Rebirth of Comedy. Among many other hilarious and thought-provoking ventures, Lou was the head writer for the Webby Award-winning comedy channel We the Internet TV, and is the host of the live debate series The Wrong Take and the Lou Perez podcast. Lou, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me here. I got to say, from my purview, I feel like I'm being fired by corporate, because it's like you guys are at a very long table and I'm over here.
Well, I'm sure you're wondering why we've gathered you here today, and unfortunately,
yeah, I got the reports in on time. I don't know what we're doing here.
We'd like to discuss some of your recent Twitter activities.
Kyle, again, it's X. Okay, please quit dead
I'm
naming
sorry,
the
I'm
platform.
dead
Every
naming
time
it.
you do it.
We're never going to get traction on X if you keep doing that. David, what are we talking about today, man?
So it turns out the Pentagon is a bigger anti-vax advocate than RFK Jr. and Nicki Minaj put together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we now know that. Climate envirostatists finally get the real driver of climate change, and they get him. They tag him finally.
Well,
Younger, dry Scotsman. That's who the real culprit is of climate change. And then the foretold God Emperor himself has launched his own currency. His own cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about that.
Wow. All right.
Barron Trump out of high school launching crypto coins.
I love to see it. You love to see it. Before we do, Kyle, what is our meme of the week?
Well, you have it now, so it's
You got to present it.
you're
Like
the
I
one that's
said,
presenting
Kyle,
it.
I'm about to pull up
You
our
talk
meme of the
about
week.
it while he pulls it up, Kyle.
There it is.
There it is. Coming out from JRC in the Discord, Arby's makes meat-based vegetable to rival plant-based meat craze. Damn it, I love this country.
Amen.
I'm not sure how I feel about how those things look.
Lou, have you tried the meat-based vegetable yet?
The euphemism? No, guys. Not even in college did I try a meat-based vegetable.
Wow.
You just need a little hock too.
Yeah, I get a little bit of that. I do eat a lot of meat though. So I mean, does it taste good? I mean, what do we?
I've never tried it actually. I'm more on the Chuck Schumer diet these days of just raw beef patties with cheese.
Yeah.
I think that's a little more. I think it's maybe the most based thing Chuck Schumer's ever done.
Cutting right in between Chuck Schumer and Jordan Peterson's daughter, like right in the middle there. Raw beef
Exactly.
with cheese on it.
Exactly. Oh, goodness. Well, Lou, so a little bit of backstory. You and I got to connect at the Libertarian National Convention. It was great to run into you. It was great to see you at the comedy show on the Thursday leading up to things. Before we get into the stories, I'd like to just know, like, in the wake of everything that has transpired after that event, like, what's your take on everything, and why are you voting for Chase Oliver?
Wow. Well, one thing I want to say, I'm one of the people, like I'm a member of the Libertarian Party. I pay dues to the National Party and my state party, which is in New Jersey. And I happen to be, I don't know if I'm how rare I am, but I get along with like everybody in the party. It seems like I've only had good experiences with every single person, whether it's the Mises Caucus or the other members. I've never spoken with Chase before, but he's always come across as a really nice guy, down to earth. So I haven't done too much studying up on like his policies and stuff like that. I think overall, I think Angela and the team did a really great job with the convention. There were so many eyes on it. look, they were able to get, RFK Jr. and Vivek and of course Donald Trump to come down there. And it really, I think that they did a great job showing like, hey, this third party that, people often tout, we're the biggest, the third biggest party in the United States. It's like, yeah, it's a pretty distant third. But, it showed like, our votes, could count towards something. And people are looking at, libertarians either as, a voting bloc or, a place to get some ideas. So I think overall, it was positive, and I know that there's been a lot of infighting, as is typical among the Libertarian Party, but I often just stay out of that stuff. So.
For sure. I mean, it seems like it's almost an impossibility that the Libertarian Party is even a party because there's just so many of these like rabid individualist people trying to make a go of having a group with some sort of cohesiveness. I mean, do you think that the Libertarian Party is like more like divided now than it has been in the past, like over the whole like nomination thing, or like some folks are going to vote for Trump maybe if Angela can pull off her plan, some folks aren't? Like, what's your take on all that stuff?
It's one of those things when it comes down to the actual voting. I mean, who could even say like for sure the libertarians are definitely going to vote for the libertarian, like the strongest libertarian candidates and all that. I mean, years ago, who were the strongest candidates? Probably Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. And I know Bill Weld was a very divisive figure, for a lot of libertarians. So, with the libertarians, there's absolutely no guarantee on which way they're going to go. Even if everybody came out happy, everyone was like, yeah, well, I really, I can get behind this nominee. There's no telling, what they would do.
Very true.
Well, and there's also stuff like here where you have Trump, if he keeps true to the promises that he's been making, like, and the libertarians have a hand in that, that's a major victory just as a voting bloc, and also just having a seat at the table here. Because like he's talking about abolishing the Department of Education, and maybe that being the role that this libertarian cabinet position takes is kind of what Angela's been hinting at. And also freeing Ross Ulbricht, all the crypto stuff, all these things, like these are all core libertarian issues. So like having a seat at the table in that discussion just seems so powerful, more powerful than libertarians ever have.
Back in before the 2020 election, I tweeted out something along the lines of, if Donald Trump were to pardon Ross Ulbricht, he has my vote. Call me like a one issue voter, and I think I'm biased. I mean, I know Ross's mom, Lynn. I performed a benefit show in New Hampshire some years back. So I think, I might be a little too close to that just on a personal level, but hearing Trump say that did mean a lot to me. And I think it gave a lot of people hope. And, when one of the things that you often hear when it comes to voting is like, this group or demographic, they're voting against their best interests. Right. Well, I think if you are going to vote, for your best interests, there are a lot of people, who are libertarians who hold a lot of weight in Ross and eventually, wanting to see him free. So I think that's definitely a bargaining chip that, it was a very good play on Trump's part, I think.
This episode is brought to you by Revved Up Promo, the official apparel partner of Human Reaction. Revved Up is a premier full-service shop specializing in laser engraving, screen printing, and embroidery. Not only are they now making all of our apparel right down the road from us, they can do the same for your brand and ship it to you anywhere in the world. Revved Up helps you navigate the extensive universe of merch options and uses state-of-the-art techniques to showcase your brand in its very best light. So if you want to support our show and our generous sponsor, you can now do so by buying our merch and by turning to Revved Up Promo for your own custom apparel needs. Reach them at revveduppromo.com. That's with 2 V's and 2 P's, or just check the show notes for a link. If you are a small business owner looking for exponential growth, you have to connect with Adam Thune at Intellectual Patriots. He will revolutionize your business game and help you get to the next level. Adam can streamline your business practices and advertising strategies to improve your bottom line. His expertise in data engineering means he can build you the systems you need to collect and analyze market data. His mission is to provide you with invaluable insights to fuel your success, from grant writing and business proposals to digital systems integrations, even AI management. Intellectual Patriots is a one-stop shop for cutting-edge solutions. Don't wait another second. Visit intelpatriots.com to learn more. That's INTEL patriots.com.
There's also the symbol that he kind of represents at large, right? It's not just about freeing one man. There's a larger symbolic meaning that exists there.
Well, yeah, and I think on Trump's part, it represents sort of a finger in the eye of the deep state who used Ross as sort of this example.
Yeah.
You know, this guy who created a website and like basically enabled free trade. You know, they slap him with a completely ridiculous sentence. Like, this would be an interesting and like very low political capital way of getting back at them in a way that actually like really does endear him to a lot of libertarian voters as well.
And Julian Assange is another one of those too, like, because he's talking about that now, and that there's another, you know, that's a big signal to libertarians.
So the irony is it's Section 230, unless you're, you know, Ross Ulbricht, in which case it's jail time. It's, you can't use Tor network unless it's the Pentagon is actually the ones who built the Tor network and then, you know, gave it to a nonprofit organization that now runs the Tor network called the Tor Foundation. It originally has all of its contracts through the Pentagon and the Defense Department. You can use it as long as you don't use it for the thing that Section 230 is supposed to protect, which is running a website without censoring the users.
Yeah, you can use it so long as you don't use it wrong, which is interesting. It's the Pentagon's been up to some other funny stuff about with vaccines, right? They were recently in the news for running a secret anti-vax campaign to undermine China during the pandemic.
Right, and I really have to emphasize that Reuters did actual press, actual media. Like, it was like a reporting, and it was original, and it's holding the government accountable, not like just, you know, rah, go to war with Russia sort of thing. So yeah, that's the short of it. I mean, the short of it is in the middle of the pandemic, the Pentagon put out a bunch of basically fake tweets through bot accounts and Facebook posts that said, "Don't get the China virus." The actual example is, quote, "COVID came from China and the vaccine," capital letters. It's like a boomer tweet, right? Also came from China. Don't trust China. And, you know, it just has like a picture of a syringe besides a Chinese flag and a soaring chart of infections.
So they're trying to influence the Chinese people or the American people?
Well, this was in Philippines. This story actually covers three different areas: the Philippines, across Central Asia, so like Kyrgyzstan, to the Middle East. So in like the Middle East and Kyrgyzstan, it was about how there's pork gelatin in the vaccine to get Muslims not to take it. Once again, just to dog on China, like it's just like a jealous girlfriend who doesn't like, you know.
So do we know
the other girl?
Has there been a Freedom of Information request to know how much of our taxpayer dollars they spent on this program?
No, I haven't got that. No, it doesn't actually say that. There was an interesting report about the 2020 audit of the Pentagon, right, which said this $30 trillion is missing and has been missing for some time.
So like some component of that.
Yeah, right. Some part of that $30 trillion.
Yeah. Lou, you were in New York City during the pandemic. Is that right?
Yeah, I was not in Kyrgyzstan, some bullshit made up country. Are we sure that that's a real country?
What word am I going for?
I'll Google it right now.
Up? Kurdistan. Not Kurdistan. No. Kazakhstan. That's the word. I mixed Kazakhstan with Kurdistan.
No.
Okay. I was like, so there's a country named after Kurt Cobain. Kurdistan.
Kazakhstan. My bad. I have a this podcast. I screw up names and places. So
you were thinking of the Kurds that we're always trying to help. You know.
Yeah, the Kurds, our best allies, the Kurds, who are always helping and abandoning immediately afterwards.
So New York City was not nearly as anti-vax as Kurdistan or wherever. Kazakhstan. Okay.
Yes.
Were you one of the refugees that fled New York during that time?
I was. Well, so my first son was born on March 26th, 2020. So like right at the height of it. And like a week leading up to it, I believe that's when a lot of hospitals stopped, pregnant women from having like their partners in the room with them. So there were a number of hospitals where women were giving birth without their husbands there, to help out. And my wife and I, she has a friend of hers who actually had like an emergency C-section and almost like bled out on the table, and her husband was like couldn't be there. So it was like so it was not only like that horrific, birth, but then also the recovery in hospital, and he couldn't be there. So that was like, a really terrible time for a lot of people. We were fortunate where I was allowed to be in the hospital with my wife, but normally it's like a 48-hour turnaround, and it was just like one day. So it was like one day and then we're out. But yeah, it was a really awful time to be an American, to be a human being. I was very lucky that I was able to be there with my wife when she gave birth. And normally the hospital holds you for, I think, like 48 hours. And they held us for a day and then, kicked us out. We went back to Brooklyn. And probably the best thing that we did was we made sure that we bought a car like a month leading up to my wife giving birth. So when everything was shut down, when, subways weren't running and all that, we were able to get out, and we ended up going, taking a lot of trips to, well, for one, there was like seeing like the in-laws. My in-laws are my parents are in Queens, my wife's are in Jersey. So every weekend it was just kind of us bouncing back and forth between there. And then, eventually, 3 years ago, we moved out of Brooklyn completely into New Jersey. And that's where we are now.
Was that for just like more space? I know a lot of people kind of fled the cities for space, or was that like because of the restrictions and all that stuff in the city?
Yeah, it was definitely for space. My wife, we have 2 kids now, and we were originally going to be in like a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, and we had these plans to move into a new apartment and turn it into a 2-bedroom. Let's just say the co-op board got in the way of that. And by the end of it, through spending the whole pandemic like in Brooklyn, I just ended up really hating everybody in the neighborhood. Every day we would go for like a walk. It would be like me, my wife, and our baby in a stroller. And we would be outside, and people would like yell at us for not wearing masks outside, like we were nowhere near anybody else. And it was just a really ugly scene where, people would, be down to do like public shaming and start a fight with you for not wearing a mask outside. So, but by the end of it, I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. So it worked out. We're a good distance away.
Out in the country now, somewhere.
Out in the country.
At an undisclosed location.
Don't come and find me, please.
We feel the same way. That's why we're in the mountains of Montana,
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
nice.
at the same time,
we're
over in mountain country.
Yeah. Undisclosed location.
Somehow better internet than you, though. I don't know what's going on with that.
True.
So yeah, at the same time that was happening in America, at the Pentagon in China, all over these areas of central, southwest, or southeast, and Middle East was saying no vaccines, at least not the China vaccine, because it has pork in it, it has these things. And additionally that, so imagine for a moment at the exact same time, we still had Democrats running a campaign about how Russia was interfering in American elections, while we are interfering in these other countries with Twitter bots, literally the exact same tactic run by our Pentagon.
Was this just like Pfizer trying to sell more of their own vaccine?
To what
Some of the
degree it's on
corporate
behalf
marketing
of the
stuff,
corporate
yeah.
stuff? That's something we've done before. On behalf of United Fruit, we literally paid death squads to run around Guatemala killing people forever. So, and that's for a fruit company.
So maybe
What's United Fruit got on Pfizer?
Well, that's true. That's true. A lot less money in fruit, I hear.
Watch out for Big Banana.
I do love the idea of Pfizer using the U.S. government, like using the Pentagon and the State Department to just be like, no, you don't want that vaccine. It's got pork. Sorry, Muslims. I love the idea of that.
They're
right?
literally putting out disinformation. These are the same people who just a couple years later would try to put up a disinformation board. Was they're actively promoting disinformation on behalf of a corporate interest in America. At the same time, those corporate interests were getting taxpayer dollars to subsidize vaccines for Americans, right?
Yeah.
But not getting taxpayer dollars for international, folks, even though we have an AIDS packet, an annual AIDS budget that probably could have paid for that.
Huh. That would have paid for the COVID jab?
In theory. I mean, it depends on how many. But you could give it to the poorest countries in the world. I mean, we do this sort of thing all the time with the U.S. military and with foreign, to ingratiate ourselves to other countries. China was doing that. China was saying, we're going to give out, I think, 1 billion vaccines for free as part of like a foreign aid package. At the same time, we were saying, nah, just Americans. And now we're not going to do it anywhere else. But then we're going to put out a disinformation campaign on other ones to keep that, basically to force them towards the American companies.
And meanwhile, there's all this linkage between U.S. companies or, boards like EcoHealth Alliance funding the lab in China where COVID came from, allegedly.
Yeah.
But yet we're subverting them over here to sell our own vaccine. It's all one big geopolitical game.
And it's interesting because the Reuters story, actually, it has a new title, but the original, no, wait. Actually, the under subtitle says, the U.S. military launched a clandestine program amid the COVID crisis to discredit China's Sinovac inoculation. Big dash. Payback for Beijing's effort to blame Washington for the pandemic.
Oh, so they're just tweet battling is what's happening.
It's a double-sided lie, right? It's like we were supposedly lying about them, saying it was from Wuhan, right? Or saying it was like created by them or something like that for the China virus, like Trump's China virus thing.
Yeah.
And they were saying, oh, well, you guys actually paid for it. And we're like, no, you're not. So we're going to pay you back by trying to undermine your inoculation.
Are we sure it was like Twitter bots and not just Albert Bourla at a keyboard? Like, their vaccine is bullshit. You want mine? You definitely want mine. I don't know. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore about the government and COVID, really. And I mean, it sucks that we are still talking about it, 4 years later?
Well, it's just, there's more and more, it seems like every month or so, we have this new thing where there's like some sort of corporate collusion with something like the State Department, and they're trying to do this and that. Like, it keeps adding on to more and more people are waking up to that kind of like embedded nature between corporate America and our national politics and kind of our geopolitical strategies that we do, right? Like those are just, people are waking up to that. And I think this is just another thing to throw on to that.
Well, and it woke up so many people. I know it was a huge turning point for a lot of people finding the liberty movement in general. And Lou, I'm curious, like, you've been in this sphere for a long time. COVID wasn't your aha moment, was it?
No, it wasn't. Although I think it was an aha moment for me when it came to just how human beings will respond to, this kind of once in a lifetime situation. Even, beyond like mandates and things like that, just the utter, hatred that was shown. I mean, the amount of people who were, when it came to like the unvaccinated, the idea like you shouldn't even let them in a hospital if they're unvaccinated, or let them stay home and die. And it's like, what a gross, just showing of an utter lack of humanity. And like, I was one of the people where it was like, oh, if somebody, got the virus and they weren't vaccinated, I'm like, well, I hope they're okay. Great. I hope they recover. Like, right. It's awesome. The more people that recover, the better it is, for everybody. So I think it really, it showed a lot of the ugliness that I think, is sort of underlying a lot of this stuff, and I think it definitely made a really good case for for libertarianism, because it's like these people with these ugly beliefs who will gladly other you and will wish for your demise. It's a good idea that they don't have power over you and over what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but like during that time, like the people that I was listening to that were making the most sense were, people like Michael Malice and Dave Smith and Tom Woods and Eric July as well. I think I started listening to Eric July back then, and I think it was a really great opportunity for libertarians and anarchists to be the reasonable people in the room. And when the hell do we get that opportunity to be the sane people in the room?
Yeah,
that's right.
Pretty rarely.
Yeah, I mean, like your experience walking outside and getting a hard time. I mean, that's like, it's like being a Catholic in Anglican England at the height of the religious wars, right? It's like, it's a religious orientation to what's dangerous right now. Is it, you're threatening the souls of America or England or people's bodies right now with this virus. It's all the same idea, and it's kind of being the atheist at the big religious fervor moment and being the voice of reason. I think that's exactly right. It's the religiosity that creates the coolness of it.
And that's such a great way to put it, because early on, like there was one time we were walking down the street, me and my wife and our baby in a stroller, and this guy is like at the end of the block. We're talking about like maybe like half a football field away. He gets off the sidewalk, starts walking in the middle of the street, right, away from us, And then when he's like sort of like parallel to me from the street, he says, "Why don't you put on your mask?" And then I try to explain to him, I'm like, "No, it's okay, man. We're outside. We're, social. We are more than social distancing." Yeah. I'm like, everything's okay. And then his response was, "Oh, what are you, a genius?" That was his response. Like, you have to be a genius to understand this, right?
Dude, you figured it out.
It's like, what are you, Goodwill Hunting?
You got to do trigonometry to figure out like the distance that a virus can travel. Even though we now know that the 6-foot rule was completely made up, that they just literally just said, I don't know, like 6 feet. Sound good? Everyone sound 6 feet. Sound good?
Completely bullshit.
Print it.
Yeah. But that was the thing. It was like early on trying to have a reasonable, human conversation, because because there was a time, early on when I was paranoid. Like my wife had just given birth. I didn't want to be next to people going to the supermarket. I was super like scared. And then I started talking to like friends and doctors and watching stuff. And I was like, oh, great. I don't have to be afraid. Like, this is okay. This is how I'm going to take care of things. And I was happy about that. So if I was in that situation and a guy were to explain to me like, oh, no, it's okay, sir. Like, we're far apart. And also the big thing is I don't have it. I can't give you something I don't have. It's a huge thing. I would have appreciated that. And you get into enough situations with people like that. There's no reason, can't reason with them, and there's no use being nice to them. So then it turned from me being the nice guy to me just saying right off the bat, "Fuck you." What are you gonna do? And that was the only way to talk to those people at a point. So.
Well, that was the creepy thing in that was kind of the tattletale nature. It's very Soviet, very much reminded me of like the Gulag Archipelago, Alexander Solzhenitsyn talking about like everybody being afraid of who's going to report on who, right? And we experienced a little bit of that, and especially in places like California, they're putting up like incentive programs to report on your neighbors and things like that, right?
I remember that.
Like people kind of forget that happened, but it showed a very dark piece of human psychology right there of like all the people being like, ooh, now I can be important, right? Like I can be the guy that saves everybody because I report on that person's doing the wrong thing, right? And there's a very creepy psychology that exists there.
Absolutely. It's this like finding your value in being a part of this tribe that is like out to get the others, right? Like it was super ugly. I think you're exactly right.
I wonder what, and this I might get kick to you, Lou, on a question. I wonder what our long-term cultural memory of this is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, what is the meme this is going to boil into? Because that's what everything boils down to as a cultural memory, or even a historical memory, right? It's going to boil down to an image or a thing that we experience. So maybe for Lou is getting yelled at in Queens, right? For me, I think of like that moment the guy in California was surfing. And the police all go out to get the guy. That's what comes to my mind when I think, what's going to be that common meme, and what can people do to shape that meme going forward?
No, it's a great point, and it's one of those things like this is a once in a lifetime occurrence where it had an impact on every single human being. Even if you were completely. I know somebody who's from Indiana, and he moved to New York during like right before the pandemic, the poor guy. And when he would go to Indiana, I forget how many months into this thing we were, and his brother was like, "What's up with this COVID thing? What's going on?" Like having no clue. So there are people who, their experience of COVID was like, no, we just did what we do. Like we went to work, we worked in a factory, we played basketball, pickup games and all that. And then there's a whole other, cohort who, were under the gun in many situations. But I think that, as far as like an image that really nails that time period. Yeah, that guy surfing, the skate park where they dumped sand into a skate park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't let those kids skate.
Nope.
Yeah. And also I think the big thing that got a lot of people interested and very upset about this, it wasn't like poor elderly people having to die alone and not being able to embrace their family members. It wasn't that did it. It was seeing their children either not being able to go to school or have to like sit on the hard concrete ground in like a playground, in a school playground to have lunch with circles, 6 feet apart, spread out. So I think that image I think that's going to have a lot to do with it too. Just like how poorly, children were treated during this thing.
Yeah.
There's something about the historical battle that exists here where Tom Woods was interviewing Vivek Ramaswamy a few days ago, and I was listening to that, and he was raising the question of like, how are we going to fight over the historical narrative around this? Because we know in a few decades, the history will be written about it in a certain way. And is it going to tell the real story, or is it going to tell and it's not just about COVID. It's like COVID, the deep state coup against Trump, like all these things, right? Like, how is history going to, and are we going to learn the lessons because the history will be written a very specific way? And can we kind of compete with that? Can we make sure history is written correctly on that, right?
It's a really good question. I mean, the same question could be asked about a lot of different topics, including this next one. I mean, is history around the battle over the climate going to be enshrined on Stonehenge forever in the form of orange spray paint? Is that the image, the meme we're going to remember?
I have a video in the notes here. Do you want to pull up the video of what happened here?
Let's do it.
So we have a bunch of climate activists. There was 2 in particular, but it's part of Just Stop Oil. They
got to find it.
They went and spray painted Stonehenge. Right before the summer solstice event that they were going to have. It's like 2 days before, because in order to raise awareness of climate.
Part was like, okay, they're using something that's not spray paint.
At first I'm like, oh, is this like a Holi celebration, like in
yay,
India
it's
with the
green.
colors?
I love this person here trying to stop them.
It ticks me off. It's like this middle-aged lady. And then finally this younger guy comes again. But the one's like getting that other guy is like, there's a bunch of other people.
Wow. It looks like a fire extinguisher at first. Like,
Yeah. Well, I guess it's like a corn-based material.
oh, of course, it has to be
Substance?
biodegradable.
Yes. Well, that was part of the irony. People are like,
They actually
isn't there,
said that,
isn't
yeah.
there oil in spray paint? And the people are like, no, it's corn-based. Don't worry. We're consistent. We're principled.
Yeah, you're like saving the climate by spraying aerosols into the sky. That's great.
Well, the official Stonehenge account says that it has been washed off and there's no noticeable damage to the rocks.
No, I read that there's unique lichen that only grows there that's been impacted by this.
Okay, I was not aware of that.
Lichen is a lot. Come on.
Oh my God, Lou, what are your thoughts on this spectacle?
Yeah, so a while back, I produced a sketch comedy video with Free the People, where instead of desecrating Stonehenge, we followed like a group of Just Stop Oil activists who glue their hands to paintings.
Yes.
So we did a sketch about that, and it would be amazing if somebody glued their hand to a painting or did this to Stonehenge, and then everyone just was like, you know what, now I got to stop. I'm not going to use oil ever again. In fact, you totally changed my mind.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's absolutely absurd what they're doing. And I've heard a lot of people, come out and say like, oh, this has to be like, the oil companies have to be financing these people because they are so
The blowback, yeah.
they are so gross that they are turning people on, to actually using more oil. I kind of like that idea, but
Yeah,
I think what's his name? Adam McKay, who's a great comedy director. Apparently, he funds these people and comes to their defense and stuff like that. And it's like you're a progressive douchebag in Hollywood, and you feel like this is the way to fight climate change. It's all so silly.
it really is.
So I have I read their press release so that you don't have to, and here's a quick synopsis of it. They're demanding that the UK government work with other governments to agree to an equitable plan. There's always that fancy word, equitable, to end extraction and burning of oil, gas, and coal by 2030. It's not enough to commit to no new oil and gas, which is what they committed. They're not going to do new oil and gas. Burning any at all will result in the death of millions. Not fulfilling this commitment will cause citizens from Austria, Canada, Norway, Netherlands, and Switzerland to join in resistance this summer because we are calling for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, similar to what was done with nuclear weapons.
It's worked out really great, by the way. The nuke, total win.
Well, actually, that might be the best thing because the U.S. will just pull out of it, right? Always pull out of the nuclear agreement.
That's why Joe doesn't have any kids.
They never talk about the millions that will die without fossil fuels.
Exactly.
They never talk about that whatsoever. And most of them will be those people because none of those people have any survival skills whatsoever.
So again, maybe this is the selection or what is it? Survival of the fittest,
Or
right?
like Darwin.
Yeah, this is a Darwin ward that we're watching in real time. Yeah, I mean
they're going to be their own demise.
It's
Right?
whoever write this. Okay, so we are the closest to nuclear annihilation now that we've been since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they're like, you know what worked great? Nuclear non-proliferation. We should compare what we're doing to that. I'm just criticizing just the comms work here. It's just shoddy. It's just not well done.
They should hire you.
Yeah,
David
at least someone should think about it.
David's looking for comms work.
Oh
Everybody.
yeah, everyone.
Well, there is something, and similar to the COVID story, there's this religiosity around the climate movement that is, it's the same type of dynamic, right? It hits the same psychology where you have these people that they're very embedded into, like, we must save Mother Gaia at any cost, and and it doesn't matter how many people will die of starvation because we don't, because we're just going to reject all of our energy production, right?
I mean, I think there's maybe a different look at it. I'm not even sure they're considering the downstream effects of this, right? I heard the folks on Timcast talking about this. They're really just thinking we need to stop oil because that will save the planet, but they're not thinking about all the things that oil is used in, like crop production to feed people in third world countries that we're, actively sending aid to, and all those things. Like, those people are going to be super, negatively impacted, similar to the folks in Sri Lanka.
And we know these policies are getting more unpopular in Europe, as seen by the EU elections from last week, from the many protests from farmers in France and Belgium and Netherlands and Germany and all across. It's as they're losing, they're getting more desperate for good trouble. And good trouble is the Marxist term for what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is cause a reaction that will somehow be it. That's why I like your theory, Lou, the best here, because you just imagine all the CEOs get together like, okay, so I've been reading Rules for Radicals. And what we need to do is hire some crazies to create good trouble, and it'll blow back, but it'll blow back our direction for once.
Well, I mean, there's also a theory that Russia is funding a lot of the pro-climate agenda in Europe because it directly benefits their oil industry, because Germany's no longer producing in the country.
I think that's another, like, Putin is the cause of everything I don't like.
But that's total 4D chess, though. Like, that would be really interesting if he was. And I mean, but they don't realize if that isn't the case, they're not realizing they're playing right into his hand. Right. I don't know.
Well, they especially did when it come down to shutting down the German nuclear power plants, which then is the cause for the Nord Stream, in which we blew them up. And so just imagine you're the climate people and you get back. We got to persuade the government that blew up the Nord Stream pipelines to stop doing oil and gas. Like, that's a pretty hard. These guys don't care much about that issue.
Yeah.
At that point.
I think they've been inhaling too much biodegradable spray paint. Probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
Speaking of Putin, have you guys seen this Putin and Kim Jong-Un love story?
Oh, I love it. Let's go.
Have you seen that?
I have seen that.
So apparently yesterday or 2 days ago, recent times, Kim Jong-Un and Putin got together and they signed a mutual defense pact, like the first one since Soviet era back in like the 60s. And the media is having kind of a heyday right here where essentially Putin gifted a limousine to Kim Jong-un because he's a big car aficionado, and Kim Jong-un he gifted some hunting dogs to Putin. But here's kind of the media take on it.
You can't hold me forever. I didn't sign up for you.
The wistful gaze. I love it.
Boy's too young to be.
What is going on here? That was hot.
Lou, what do you think?
How do you feel about this love story?
Bromance?
It's pretty nice bromance.
I mean, I want to watch the tape. I want to see it. I want to know who's the who's the top, who's the bottom.
It could be a good buddy cop movie.
They switch. So.
I think this is an appeal to the West during Pride Month. Like, hey, look, we're cool too.
This is all a propaganda campaign for Pride Month. Is that what it is?
There we go. Yeah.
There it is.
Well, that's the because the media coverage around the topic has been because they're signing a treaty, right? Which is that's a big geopolitical move that's happening right here, first since 1968 or whatever the time was, and the media is just like, the person who really loves this is Donald Trump. That's the
obviously
that's all the coverage I'm seeing, right? It's just like Donald Trump would love this. He should be in that throuple. Like I'm seeing CNN saying that, right?
Oh goodness. Of course they would. Yeah, why not? Well, he did cross into the DMZ, so he probably has a crush on Kim Jong-Un as well. I would assume.
Well, that's another one of those things, right? Like that was a pretty big move, was that DMZ thing, and then when Biden comes in, just cutting it, and now we have a Russia-North Korea alliance, that's forming right here as kind of part of the whole broader picture, because now we're not allowed to negotiate with the terrible dictator Kim Jong-Un. We're not allowed to have a conversation with him apparently under this administration.
Well,
right?
not allowed or not able to, or maybe two different things, right?
Well, I mean, we were having the conversation,
we were.
and then we stopped having that conversation.
I don't know that Joe Biden is actually physically able to have a conversation.
True.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift to our next story here. To preface this, Lou, are you a crypto guy at all? Being a libertarian, are you into crypto?
I don't understand crypto. I think I own a little bit of Bitcoin, but I think I own it through Coinbase, which I guess libertarians laugh at me for having that. I don't have I don't have a proper wallet. I don't know. If anybody out there can help me.
We got our in-house crypto degen right here.
Yeah, you got tech support on the line.
I am the local crypto guy.
Okay, well, we'll get we'll be really interested in your takes on this from maybe a more normie perspective. Kyle, why don't you tee this up for us? I don't even know what's going on.
Well, so what I want to preface with this is, so Donald Trump, he's doing, he's like, I'm ending the war on crypto. You have all these like crypto tech bros donating to him and all this stuff, right? But the important thing is, what has Barron Trump been up to? So Barron Trump, who many on the internet are saying is the future God Emperor.
Who those don't know, this is one of Donald Trump's sons.
It's his youngest son. Who just graduated high school.
Who happens to be 9 foot tall.
He is foretold. He's 9 feet tall. He is a giant, right?
He's what, Anunnaki? Is that what everyone's all freaking out about?
He is the Anunnaki. He is the future of everything. People are trying to matchmake him with various princesses so that they can continue the family line.
What?
Yeah,
are you serious?
This is the internet. This is the internet right now. Wow. Like Barron Trump is the God foretold coming to save the world. He is some emperor in Rome. They matched his face with it. The internet loves Barron, right?
Okay.
So he just graduated from high school. So there's in the recent month, there's been a bunch of like shit coins, a bunch of meme coins on the Solana network that have been going, and they're all like, Trump is the God Emperor that's going to save us all, so here's all these Donald Trump coins, right? Well, Pirate Wires, run by Mike Solana, who's part of Peter Thiel's group, he tweeted out on Pirate Wires that Trump is launching an official meme coin. And everybody's like, okay, that's weird. What's going on here? And then there's some young conservative influencer who's like 16 years old and who's Barron's best friend that tweets out and then deletes it quickly after that Barron Trump is involved in the meme coin.
Uh-oh.
And quickly deletes it after. People start making bets online. There's $100 million bet that was made between GCR, who's like this famous crypto trader, and Martin Shkreli, the pharma bro who went to jail for making fun of Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Right? Like that. They start making a bet. And many people online believe that GCR is Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm just going to preface that as well.
That's a great conspiracy theory.
It's a pretty big conspiracy theory. He owns the best pudgy penguin. He's like this big trader. He was the best trader in the last cycle.
That sentence makes no sense if you don't have been
following
this podcast. Like,
doesn't
so
matter.
lost right now.
Doesn't matter.
He owns a penguin? What's this?
Yep. He owns a penguin.
So he's like Tiger King, sort of.
So there's this bet that forms, $100 million, and it's starting to move into escrow and all this stuff with another famous crypto person. That doesn't matter for the sake of the story. turns out what comes out is there's some leaked tweets that come out between Martin Shkreli and Andrew Tate.
Oh,
that Andrew Tate was in conversations with Barron Trump about getting initial coins on this coin. But he was asleep in Romania because he's from Romania before the coin launched and he didn't get into it. Right?
Oh.
Martin Shkreli, it turns out, was part of the development of this coin, and Barron Trump came to Martin Shkreli and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to make this coin because my brother Donald Trump Jr. is making a coin, and I want to beat him to it."
Lou, are you tracking all this?
Are you tracking all this?
Wait, so what happened to Andrew Tate?
He didn't get in on the coin.
Oh, God. Can you imagine Barron Jr.'s like, I'm going to text Andrew Tate to see if he wants to get in on this coin?
Yep. That
is so wild.
Lou, are you keeping up? Are you keeping up?
I mean, this sounds like when you are like way too much online. You know everybody that you're talking about. Sure.
Exactly true.
Like right below, there's a chyron to just go, please touch grass, please.
Well, and so that's the thing. A lot of people haven't been touching grass because Martin Shkreli's been doing 6 to 8 hour long Twitter spaces, basically defending his name in this because well, essentially what his side of the story is that there's actually this tweet. If you go in the notes, Joe, you'll see "You'll be bigger than your father." I have linked. This is a text. This is a message that Martin Shkreli sent to Barron Trump, which is this guy is a clown. He's talking about somebody else in crypto. That doesn't matter. But
I'm pulling it up here.
Yeah, here, if you pull it up right here.
There it is. All right.
He's saying, this guy is a clown. You are the guy, not your dad. You are going to be bigger than him. Give me, so you essentially have Martin Shkreli egging on Barron Trump as you're going to be the guy that's bigger than your dad, right?
Whoa.
Right? This is...
Martin Shkreli's trying to get Barron Trump to do what?
To stage a coup.
Because what he's trying to do is...
An internet coup.
So according to Martin Shkreli, Barron calls up his dad and he's like, "Hey, you're the crypto president. I really want to launch a meme coin in your name.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make this like an official coin if it goes well," kind of a thing. And Donald Trump allegedly is just like, "That sounds fun. Here's a lawyer."
Sounds great. Here's a lawyer.
Just give him a lawyer.
Here's a lawyer.
Right?
Thanks, Dad.
And then here's Barron Trump saying, "Martin, hop on a call with us. We'll send you a link to the Google Meets, all this stuff," right?
Oh my God.
Okay, so Martin Shkreli is launching a crypto coin.
Has launched a crypto coin last week.
Okay.
That's called DJT.
Okay.
And Barron Trump is running this thing. And now you have all the adults in the room are trying to have Barron pull out of it, right? And you have these crypto people that are like, "Barron, no, you're the guy. You're the guy." But all the adults and the lawyers are like, you have the campaign's made official statements. We're not involved with this coin.
Right.
So I guess the question is, assuming all this is legit and all this stuff, does this have an impact on the Trump campaign?
Well, I don't know.
What is this? What is happening here? Right?
It depends. Is Barron Trump Muad'Dib? Because if so, I think that, this could be pretty real.
He is the Lisan al-Gaid. Yeah. So on your actual question, the question to me seems to be if crypto people are actually going to see this, like if it's going to create a separation between the boomers who support Donald Trump and the crypto people, right? If that becomes a war within the Donald Trump camp, because the crypto people feel like, if the boomers feel like they're trying to take advantage of Barron and trying to like basically pump a bad stock, right? A junk stock with this, using his name, that's like an abuse of the name. Even though that's kind of what Donald Trump has been doing for 50 years. But
that being said, Melania Trump has 2 NFT collections. So it's not like this. It's not like this is
Trump's
outside the
stakes
norm,
kind of
right?
sucked. So which is just a different way to do it.
Trump sold NFTs, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had an NFT thing happen.
Cards. Yeah,
cards. That's
yeah.
right. Lou, did you end up with one of those Trump cards?
I don't even know. I don't know what NFTs are, man.
Oh,
That's fair.
Are they like imaginary friends? Just like kind of?
yes.
Yeah, kind of like that. You can be like Donald Trump's best friend.
Basically.
For some money.
Yep.
I think he was offering like dinner at the White House or something. If
I
he
get
wins.
texts with this all the time right now. I'm just like, "Hey, yeah, come to Mar-a-Lago with me." Yeah.
So there's actually a broader question, and this is the question that's being kind of lifted in this space. Is this not similar to Hunter Biden type of stuff, right? Where you have the kid profiting off of things like Barron Trump, if this is successful, could make like several $1 million, right? Because like his money is not necessarily his dad's money. You know, his
That's a lot of crack.
Yeah,
That's a lot of crack with that.
but and that's actually something that I'm seeing like lefties saying is just like, oh, this is no different than what you're complaining about with Hunter Biden, right?
Well, the difference between Hunter Biden, what he's actually guilty of, beyond the gun crime, that's dumb. It's lobbying for a foreign government without registering as a foreign government's lobby, right? Because he's calling his dad. And that's how he sold himself as a service. While Barron Trump is making money off of crypto, which is a very different phenomena. So on a lower level resolution, okay, sure, you're dealing in your dad's name, but that's not illegal. And in fact, they said that wasn't illegal when he did it. What they're missing is when you do it for the government of Ukraine to get the guy fired so that you can pump your CIA-backed Burisma as probably part of the National Endowment of Democracy, or when you're doing it to China, to a particular Chinese faction, then you're doing something else.
You see, the internet's telling me that there's no difference.
Well, you should believe everything you read on the internet.
Especially that Martin Shkreli's launching a crypto coin with Don Jr. And how does Vivek, is he betting against Don Jr. being part of it?
He's betting that it's not it's not officially part of it. I'm not saying that that's actually Vivek. It's a conspiracy
No,
online.
I believe it now. It's totally in my
that
head.
is Vivek Ramaswamy. There's a lot of timelines that mesh up with that. He's a very famous he's like, if you're in crypto, you know who this guy is, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But the bet has since dissolved because of these leaks. With the question becomes is it officially a Trump coin or is it just Barron's thing? Right,
okay.
like that becomes the question.
Okay,
right?
I have a different question.
And does this have impacts on does there become weird campaign fine? Like that's one of the questions here is we have Donald Trump getting charged and convicted of like having accounting errors for campaign finance violations of not putting them on the correct things. Is this something that is now another attack vector on that whole scenario, right?
Sure. Well, and I guess that's my broader question. Is like, what is the relevance of this to a normie who does touch grass from time to time?
That's not me.
As Lou suggested.
That's not me,
yeah. Why would an average person care, and what are the broader implications of this?
Well, I mean, it's part of these questions that are being raised, right?
That's
Like,
probably
we're
why the
talking
campaign
about-
would be so concerned, right? It does open you up to a vector of non-disclosed donations if it's considered even popular by popular imagination to be part of the campaign.
Which at this point anything is, right?
In a point where literally just like 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump's getting convicted of having accounting errors on campaign finance, right? Like this is coming right out of that, right?
That's true. So you're thinking that the campaign is at risk potentially if Barron goes off and does something rogue, it could be tied to him inappropriately, and that would be another way for them to damage.
I don't know
I
if
think
they
that's
need
another
another
concern there.
I feel like they have enough already, but you never know. I mean, there's just a new court
know
case
if they
every
do.
week.
I don't know if they do, right? It seems like Trump just keeps trucking along regardless.
It gives them another media cycle on it. That's the real question. And then Donald Trump is now accepting Dogecoin for donations, right?
He's
Another
accepting
country.
everything. You have everybody's just like the Winklevoss twins just donated $1 million each in Bitcoin, right?
Lou, if I wanted to buy your book, could I buy it with Dogecoin? Is that a thing that you accept?
Oh, I mean, I would accept it in theory, but then you have to explain to me what that is.
It's imaginary internet money.
I wish it was set up for crypto. But yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to buy my books, they can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, that sort of. Or if they hit me up directly, we could figure out a way of getting a signed edition out there to the people. And hopefully, I think I'm better at that than figuring out how to make Riverside work on my computer or my phone. So my apologies on that front.
Lou, how do you feel about the memetic prophecy that is the God Emperor Barron Trump, and his 6'8" tall structure and him being just like perfectly fit for office in 20 years?
Well, I think
about that?
I think to the credit of probably his parents and the press, they haven't been focusing a lot on the kid, which is nice. It's like, oh, you're allowing this kid to be a kid and to grow up, but with that, I think his legend has grown. Mm-hmm. So he's now 12 feet tall when he could very well just be 6'6". Like we don't know. So there's all these things that are happening because now he's kind of like this urban legend, and I hope that he continues to grow and grow and grow until he's like a 40-foot, 40-foot mass of like private school education,
Well, isn't that going to be a problem for his future presidential bid when people realize that he's not actually 43 feet tall? Like, is there going to be a blowback that comes with that?
he's going to be able to bring back fake news,
Fake news.
And when he says it, it's going to shake the foundation of the building.
Because his voice will
The
be
sad thing, he won't
5
have
octaves deeper.
he won't have the accent though. That's really what's going to get it. He's not going to talk like Trump, so we're just going to be missing that the whole time.
Well, are we sure that Barron Trump isn't in fact a deep fake? Does he actually really exist? Or is he sort of just this like entity from beyond the veil that's speaking through internet
he's
memes?
Anunnaki. That's how you're just proving it to me right now.
Well, I'm trying to find the.
He was in Miami that one time. Remember when the Giants showed up in Miami and everyone was freaking out on the internet?
It was just Barron
That
Trump
was just
going
Barron
shopping.
Trump just walking around. He got out of Mar-a-Lago. He's going for a walk on a mall. And next thing, he's causing a panic. He's
500
running
cops.
around.
Joe, I just put an image in the notes for you. I want you guys to see how much of a monster current Barron Trump is right here. Look at that boy.
You see, you're trying to demonstrate how the internet is obsessed with Barron Trump.
Yeah, I'm trying to demonstrate the meme magic here, right? Because the meme magic is everything. Like Donald Trump himself is a walking meme.
Oh yeah, I've seen this before.
Right? Like this is what people are doing with the kid, right?
Okay. Like he's got the
great
emperor's
hair.
nose.
His great hair. Is
And,
like,
his hair.
and I think to Lou's point here is like he just turned 18. And the media has kind of steered away from him, I think, in his youth. And now we're probably about to start seeing more of him, especially if Trump gets reelected. If Trump gets reelected, right?
He's legal, boys.
Yeah.
He's legal.
Well, that's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
Where now he's fair game, but you have like this type of stuff where like the internet is just like creating a mythology around him. But then, what is he going to like? He's about to go off to college. Where is he going from here, right?
North Korea.
Hey, actually, speaking of the political side on here, what are you guys thinking? We have a debate showing up here.
Oh, yeah.
Next week between Trump and Biden.
Yes, we do.
How are we thinking that this is going to go down? Well, actually, the bigger question is there's conspiracies around this, right? Of this is going to be the excuse to get rid of Biden this election. Is if he underperforms, then they'd be like, yeah, he's not fit for office. We move on with, and that's kind of the theory of why they're doing this before the conventions, because normally, party versus party debates don't happen pre-conventions, right?
Yeah.
How are you guys all feeling about this right now? Lou, you have any thoughts?
You just reminded me that was happening. When is it happening? How far
It's
out?
next week.
Is it next week?
Next week.
Next week, like how is it on a Wednesday? Because they might want to get it on like a Monday or Tuesday, just so like Biden's brain doesn't deteriorate any further. Like just try to get that early. I can't imagine it's going to be anything but a shit show.
And a glorious one at that.
Did they agree on a drug test beforehand? Because that's what I want to know.
That would be so great.
don't
I just
think
want to know
it
what
was
his
agreed
stack
upon.
is. Like how much D-ball is that guy taking to get in there?
It does
They're
seem
giving
like
him the wrong. It'd be amazing. Like they're giving him the wrong drugs. Like, they're not giving him anything for his brain. But he's like he's benching 450. Yeah.
Just old man strength. And
Yeah.
He just
Can't
picks
walk
up
upstairs.
the podium.
it does seem like they've managed to give him like the perfect concoction, at least to be able to do things like the State of the Union address. But these recent weeks with Biden, the sheer amount of gaffes is him just being like
See, I think this is 4D chess, right? Biden is trying to sandbag right now, so Trump thinks he's an easy target, and then he shows up on the top of the line Pentagon cocktail and just absolutely annihilates it.
it's like the boxer that kind of like acts like he's tired before he can. Yeah,
Exactly.
Rope-a-dope. Yeah.
Give him the rope-a-dope.
Well, what I would love is like if it's obviously just like Obama in Biden's skin, it's off a little bit. Like his neck is brown, but like
Obama's doing whiteface.
Don't give the
Is that
don't give the internet ideas. That's gonna be a thing.
When you hear Biden say, "Now let me be clear," you'll know.
It is on Thursday next week. It's on June 27th.
too far away.
I
Too far.
just literally see him like being put into like a room, like a hyperbolic chamber. There's like pumped like gases in there to like pump him up and get him full of all the drugs. He walks out, he's all green, ready to talk.
So there's this interesting conspiracy I saw on X today, where you either there's like a coin toss, I guess, and this could be totally false. So like fake news disclaimer. You can pick if you want to speak first or last in the debate, and you can pick the podium that you stand in front of. Something about the podiums. And normally the logic would say you want to speak last because that gives you the best advantage to sound the best.
Yes.
Coming off of the end, you have the opportunity to have the last word. It's better for you generally in a debate. But the Biden camp picked the podium option. They want to have some sort of control over like what podiums they're selecting or which podium they get to stand at. Why would they pick the podium over speaking last? Any thoughts?
I don't know.
There's a conspiracy. The conclusion of this conspiracy was that this is going to be...
His mask is bad on one side?
Yeah, this is going to be the way that they like switch Biden out. Like it's not going to be the real Biden. It's going to be Obama in a Biden skin suit or something like that. And that has something to do with which podium they pick.
I do like the idea of Obama doing whiteface. I do like that.
I mean, that would be a real...
Am I allowed to be offended by that? Are we
so.
able to do that? I
think so.
Well,
can we pull that card?
No, he can't.
Oh, he is half white. That's right.
Oh shoot! All right, diffused.
Well, it was funny because I was watching a recent Trump interview and he was asked like, hey, how do you feel about going into this debate? He's like, well, I don't want to underestimate Biden. I remember watching back in the day the interview or the debate between him and Paul Ryan, and you remember Paul Ryan, how awful he did. He just kept drinking water left and right. It was like he was drowning there, and Biden beat him. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Wait,
but that was the real
Trump
Joe
believes
Biden.
the reason why he lost is because Paul Ryan drank water.
Yeah. No, that was the meme on the internet.
He's like, I'll drink water. It's not a thing.
Paul Ryan was kind of did like a Mark Zuckerberg a lot during it. He was like drinking it, like, and he just kept going for it.
I figured he just got done with like a P90X exercise, and he was just thirsty.
No, see the
It's a
problem.
millennial joke. Only millennials would get that one.
Yeah. No, the problem was he was drinking water, not adrenochrome. He needed.
No, that's right.
He needed to keep up.
He needed to get the baby's blood in him.
That's right.
What he
That's
needed
right.
to do.
Well, Lou, we really appreciate your time, man, and I've just got a couple more funny things that we'd like to react to here. If you've got a few more minutes to share with us.
You got it.
All right. So this one surfaced. I don't know if you've seen it, but this one caught my attention, and I'd love your take on it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Over the couch over there.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's okay. I had Cephas answer some questions from a Harvard test known as unrest. It is designed to measure someone's level of social resistance.
Social resistance.
When people like us oppose the values and policies of the dominant culture.
That's right.
And what does that have to do
Your son, he feels threatened on a daily basis. Like everything he's earned can just be taken away. He's disenfranchised. But because his life is seemingly free from all this, because he can't name it, he's internalizing it.
Name what?
Racism. I think your son's tumor was caused by racism.
Sir?
It's a beautiful scene. It's wonderful. I saw that. I watched it. I enjoyed it like everyone else. But it could go either way. Like the son could have gotten cancer because of racism or because he's a racist. Like the way that they wrote it, like he feels disenfranchised and blah blah blah. And I love the idea of like the female black doctor with a posh English accent is talking about how the dominant culture is against her. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. The dominant culture of a private school educated doctor.
When people like us feel a certain way. Oh, okay, yeah. Yep.
I would have thought that the cancer would have been caused by climate change.
Well,
right?
That was actually last month.
Was that the other one? Is that?
Yeah, that was last month.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Those are both probably the main causes of cancer.
I mean, it depends.
Climate
it depends
change
on
and
who you ask.
racism.
Climate change and racism.
Trust the science.
We
Kyle.
know it's. I've seen the article that climate change is caused by racism. That's already known. Yeah. This is the established science, guys.
Oh, so it's a cascade.
Okay, wait. So cancer and climate change are caused by racism?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's cancer is caused by racism, which is caused by climate change. So
I'm not a scientist, so I'm just gonna have to trust it on this one.
Oh my god.
And I love it. He took a Harvard survey.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh, that's how they went about it. They didn't go in. Like they didn't go in and see like, well, actually, the cells from this tumor.
Maybe like an MRI would be a good idea first, right? Like,
Yeah.
So let me attempt to explain what he's talking about. So the unrest framework is a framework development to try to test whether or not you are the victim of racism, right? By your implicit biases. And it's an association game, kind of like a Rorschach test of like questions that you make these associations.
How does this image make you feel kind of a thing?
Yes. And so it's highly subjective, of course. And then it says in the background, the recently developed social resistance framework addresses a widespread pattern whereby non-dominant minority groups such as ethnic/racial minorities and people of low socioeconomic status often engage in unhealthy and risky behaviors at higher rates compared with society at large. That's why it caused his racism. It's because he's engaging probably in smoking.
in higher risk
So rather than
behaviors.
blaming smoking, blame racism.
Blame the reason why he might have started smoking.
Yes, that's the root cause, if you will.
That is the most rational explanation I think you could have possibly given us for that.
It's
saying
still
it's right,
it's still
but-
just terrible. It's a
I mean, it's
terrible way to
awful.
look at the world, right? Because you're like, at this point, you could literally say anything.
Well,
is the cause.
I mean, that's interesting that you bring up high risk behaviors because I've got another fun one to share with you guys now.
Your transitions are on point today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Lou, you've got me on my best behavior. So this one hits home for me because I grew up outside of the Seattle area and I left 16 years ago and never went back. I mean, just to visit family and stuff like that. But so apparently the city of Seattle is now using tax dollars to provide boofing/booty bump kits for people who choose to indulge in substances. And for a little bit of clarity on this, we have a nice Zoom call that they hosted.
Boofing is inserting drugs in your rectum. And one of the main reasons people do it is because there's a lot of blood vessels in your rectum, a lot of surface area. I always recommend people try boofing.
What?
Because switching to snorting can be a little too big of a jump.
I love that.
I love
because
that.
I
just
think
love
also that helps with our minds. So if you're having a really hard time, hitting and it's really starting to you're getting in your head about it and you're starting to get frustrated, just knowing that you do have an option of boofing or booty bumping is I don't know, I think maybe brings a little bit more ease, right? You're like, okay, I'm getting really fucking frustrated. This is really it's not working. Okay, I have this other option too.
And then if you want to inject later because you really enjoy the rush from injecting, that's fine. But, getting yourself well first can really just take some of that frustration off.
It's what I think it is.
Yes. So
Yeah.
Lou, do you know what boofing is? Did you know about boofing before this clip? Or is this your first exposure?
No, we don't call it that.
What do you call it?
No. me and my boys. Normally what you would snort coke
Right.
off of someone else's asshole, right?
That's how they did in the
Like the
80s
whole,
when America was a society. God damn it.
Yeah, it's a party drug. You're supposed to party with others. You don't just go and stick whatever substance you're on up your ass, man. Come on.
This is just more evidence of the atomization of America, thanks to these goddamn libertarians. We're not a community anymore. You can't snort crack off of someone else's ass. How are we supposed to employ strippers and prostitutes if there's no butts to do? Come on, guys.
Hey, look, it's Pride Month, okay? They're trying to get creative. They're trying to be inclusive, and I think maybe this is just a new approach.
Wait, what is the scenario that this Zoom call was being had? What is the context here of how did we get here? I guess is the question.
I think the context is there's a fat woman and a thin woman, and they just get together to talk about meaningless stuff. That's kind of what they do.
I guarantee you that is a publicly funded call. Here's what it is. I don't know. I'm just going to shoot this shot, and I think I'm going to be right. Okay, so in the public health drug scene, right, there's usually two different things. You either incarcerate someone because they're drug addicted and you kind of control them and use, kind of force to kind of get them out of their current environment. Or what you do is you do risk mitigation. This is like the needle programs and stuff like that. So along with the needle programs has become education programs. So they just assume we're never going to get you off drugs. So what we're going to do is make sure you can do drugs the safest way possible. It's a risk mitigation technique. So now what they do is they go around and they educate people. Oh, no, that's not the vein you want to use. You want to to use this vein. And then so they can show you better how to use your drugs.
It's compassion.
And this is just the next tier of it. It's just like, well, I just want to let you know, putting them up your butt is an option, and it's pretty darn safe.
My God.
I'm just glad my taxpayer dollars are going to good causes.
Well, it's not yours, fortunately. I mean, I guess maybe so. I think this is Washington State taxes that would be going towards this, although I would not be surprised.
This might be like, if you're a drug mule, then you're getting high on your own supply because you're already sticking it up your ass to get it through.
You're already prepped. Yeah, you're like, well, maybe I'll just do a little bit while I'm here.
They should have come in as an expert witness. All right, hey, drug mule, what's your technique? How much lube? What are we doing here?
We need a demonstration from a professional here, please.
Oh, man.
So Seattle, everybody. Yep, the glorious city of Seattle. Lou, have you ever seen anything like that in New York City, or is this like a new tier of ridiculous?
I mean, I remember hearing some years back about butt chugging, where people
very
were,
similar.
People were doing the funneling beer, but instead of in their mouth, they would do it in their ass. which I guess like if you're a college student, you're already drinking gross cheap beer, so you might as well not get the taste and just put it straight in your ass.
That's right. May as well. And if you're going to do bad cocaine, you may as well just not have to taste it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, in a little while from now, we're going to have Tucker Carlson's going to be interviewing Alexander Dugin. They're going to be on there, be like, we used to be a society where you had partners, a community where you could do coke off of someone else's ass. And now everyone's doing it to themselves. It's just wrong.
Post-COVID, everyone's isolated, feeling depressed, and
now everybody's doing it 6 feet apart from each other.
The atomization is complete. We are.
Okay. All right. Well, last one here, Lou, and then I do want to talk more about your book because I have been listening to it. And by the way, thank you so much for narrating the audiobook. I know we talked about this at the convention briefly. I don't do audiobooks unless the author reads it, and yours is fantastic, and I highly recommend that everybody check it out. So one more clip, and then we're gonna get into that just a little bit more.
Cool.
Yeah, this one is from your city, sir. And maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. This came across my X feed yesterday.
Get off the bus! Get off the fucking bus! Get off the bus, yo! Get off the bus! Oh my gosh, look at that!
So the bus driver's like throwing what looks to be a kid off of a school bus.
And like,
crazy, yo. Yo, get up. You okay?
what's going on the floor all over?
That's not a kid.
That's a grown-ass man.
That's a grown. He's got like a metal lunchbox and
What
shit. Is that a
is-
skit?
So that was a black little person in a very puffy jacket on a school bus.
That was a Oompa Loompa. Yep, a black Oompa Loompa. Oompa Loompa of color.
There you go. Thank you. What was going on there? Do you have any idea? Explain
I think
on behalf of your
that's
city.
actually a few years old.
Is it really?
Those
Yeah, I
guys,
think it is.
those guys that would do like a lot of like pranks that would involve, the big black dude and the dwarf, and that's from a while back. It's a great bit.
Oh, they got me, huh?
That is great comedy.
Oh,
right
you
there.
got God.
I got
Oh,
God.
you got God. You
Hey,
thought
good.
that was? Oh man.
I mean, what? Hey,
as soon as I saw it was an adult man, I was like, oh shit, it's a gag.
Look, the first thing on my feed was Seattle, giving out boofing kits, and then it was that, and I was like, "What is the world anymore?"
Everything's real.
Everything's real. All right, well, fine, it's fake.
Hawk Tuah girl, totally CIA plan.
Staged.
Yeah, definitely. No, not staged, just CIA.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's meant to
Agent.
distract us from the oncoming nuclear war.
Wow, way to bring us down. Shit, Lou, help bring.
We
bring
were
us
we were trying to have a good time,
Nah,
and then you're
come
just like,
on.
and then we're
We can
just
talk about
then the nukes
Mexican
are gonna
orcs
fly.
if you-
the Mexican orcs. No.
When the bombs start falling, man, you got to start boofing. That's it.
It's the only thing that gets you through it.
Go out in style,
They did a bit different in the 50s. It was get underneath your desk. Now it's just put the drugs right up your ass right at the end.
Whatever gets you there, I guess. Lou, okay, let's talk about your book. After all of that shenanigans, I've really enjoyed it. It's been awesome. In fact, I think my favorite chapter was cremation vacation, for obvious
Thank you.
reasons. I can't even believe that that's real. I don't know if you want to go into that at all, but tell us about the book, why you wrote it, what it's all about, and And yeah, that chapter in particular, if you want to dive in.
Sure. Well, one, thank you so much for checking it out. I enjoy that chapter, and I reread it a few times. I'm like, oh wow, I'm so happy I wrote that, because it was a really special moment in time.
Yeah.
The book came out of an article I wrote in the Wall Street Journal called "How I Became a Quote Far Right Radical," and it was a response to my old comedy channel being included in an academic paper. It was called it was labeled a far right channel, which it is not. So that was like sort of my response, to that. And the book came out of that, and the book was like an opportunity for me to look back on like 20 years of comedy, and like how I started out, what's changed along the way, and how do we get comedy back to what I think it should be. And the chapter you talk about, Cremation Vacation, is about a trip that my good friend and I took to Nepal when we both were turning 33. And if anyone hasn't been to Nepal, we had such a wonderful time. It was a wild place though, because tourists will go to like crematoriums and wild stuff like that, and see like naked holy men and all that stuff. So without giving too much away, some of those holy men will try to make money by doing these amazing physical tasks. And one of them, a guy offered to lift a gigantic rock with his penis. And so I go into that in the chapter.
Highly recommend you check it out. There's a lot more to it than just that chapter, but that one definitely had me rolling pretty hard.
Was this the article that you were mentioned in the New York Times? Was this the article that was like talking about the far right pipeline? And it was like, first they start with Jordan Peterson, and then they go down and down, and that was it. That
it was a similar thing. It seems like there were a bunch of like kind of like academic papers coming out around that time with that same thing. So this one, it was pre-published. So it was like the growth of right-wing echo chambers on YouTube, right? Super scary. And then they got so much pushback and criticism for that paper, because they were calling, not only were they calling, We the Internet TV, my old channel, far right, they were calling Joe Rogan and Brett Weinstein and Vox Media and stuff. So it was just like it didn't make any sense whatsoever. So they made like really dramatic changes to their whole paper.
But still, the preprint stayed out there in the public sphere, and the misinformation of that was sort of still available for people to consume, right?
Yeah. It's that's one of the funniest parts is that they corrected the record, but the corrected record is behind a paywall. Last time I checked, and then the one that's incorrect is out there free for the public, so anyone can go and read that.
Are you telling me the Stanford Internet Observatory isn't actively fighting this misinformation?
How could they?
On the internet, they just selectively choose to do the Biden laptop story, but not this? I mean, come on.
Right.
I can't believe it. I'm outraged.
What were you before you kind of hit the libertarian, rabbit hole? Were you like politically involved at all, or interested? Did you have kind of views prior to that? Like, what brought you to this point? I guess.
Yeah, I think it was probably like there was like an anti-authoritarian streak in me, but there was a time when I read what's her name, Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine, and I don't know if you guys have read that, but it's very anti-capitalist, very anti Milton Friedman, and I was like, these people are evil, and capitalism is evil, and blah blah blah. And then I read a response to it. I believe it was in Reason magazine. Johan Norberg, the Swedish libertarian, wrote a response to it, and then I watched an interview with him and Michael Moynihan where they completely debunked this whole the whole thing, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then I guess from there it was like Penn Jillette and bullshit and Reason magazine, the Cato Institute, and all that. I think like a lot of people, I didn't go. I never found libertarianism via like Ayn Rand or anything like that. Mine was probably more of like I wouldn't even say like traditional, but like more of like a mainstream libertarian thing. And then And then over the years, I've gotten, I guess, weirder, where, I feel like my people are a lot more on the kind of like the Free State Project and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
So it starts. You always start with a minimum amount of weird, and before you know it, 5 years later, you're just doing hardcore weird. You're reading real stuff.
You're boofing so much weird.
You're boofing Milton Friedman right up there. Yeah. Capitalism, freedom's going right up there.
No, you get to a point where you're like, oh, this Milton Friedman's just not doing the same high. I got to go all the way to like Rothbard or something.
Snorting Hoppa. Next thing you know,